But if truly these are foreigners, what does that speak about us as a country? That you have foreigners invade our country, kill Nigerians, and return to where they came from. Nobody stops them. And then you have people being buried, given mass burial, and the president has not even gone to condole with them. I'm seeing pictures of him with his family smiling. I don't have anything against his family celebrating, but why make a public show of it? At a time that almost 200 of your citizens are being buried, the president of a country has not gone to visit the victims. It's only the vice president who went. I'm not even sure if he interacted with the victim directly. But people are tired of condolences. People are tired of excuses. Nigerians want to see solution. President Tinubu must decide today that this attack must not happen again. No. And if it happens again, this is what the consequence will be. In terms of resignation, in terms of firing people. And if the Tinubu comes to the conclusion that Nigerians, I promise you renewed hope, but unfortunately I don't have any hope to give you. I cannot safeguard your life. The honorable thing is to resign. You cannot have citizens being slaughtered, and there is no consequence. That there shall be for Nigeria a president who shall be the chief executive officer of the government of the federation and the commander-in-chief of the armed forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. That person today is President Bola Almhed Tinubu, and he has to take responsibility for what has happened. Now, when you even look at the operational use and command structure of the security architecture of our country, beginning from the police, you look at section 215 of the Constitution. That power is domiciled in the president. You look at the armed forces, section 218. The president has the sole authority over the control of the armed forces. You look at the State Security Service, SSS. You look at under the National Security Agencies Act, it is still the president that has the sole authority and control over the SSS that is supposed to provide intelligence for the internal protection of our country. So what I see is basically abdication of presidential responsibility and constitutional functions. And that is how I choose to characterize what has happened. In other words, my verdict as a Nigerian is that today, President Tinubu has, to that extent, abdicated his responsibility to protect Nigerians. Because what does it mean to say that the president has given a presidential directive, a presidential instruction? The IG has given directive. I mean, I was just reading the news while coming here, that the IG has gone to Plateau State. And he said he's, deploying tactical teams, intelligence team, whatever to Plateau. What does that mean? We are now living in a country, and quite tragically, where the words of the president, the statements of the president and commander-in-chief are clearly and undoubtedly meaningless to Nigerians. Because if the president of a country is saying that this has to stop, and barely hours after he has said that, we see another attack. What the attackers are saying is that in their mind, in their state of mind, they do not recognize the authority of the president. So we have to stop excusing this. Can anybody tell us today that the entire architecture, the entire military infrastructure, the entire state security service headed by Bichi, the entire Nigeria police force headed by IGP Ebetuku, is incapable of detecting these attacks, is incapable of responding expeditiously, that the military has no aircraft, the police has no helicopters, they could not have responded within minutes of the attack, when the military has confirmed that they received over 30 distress calls. So there is simply no excuse for what has happened. It is either the government is complicit in these killings, or the government is clearly incompetent. But whichever it is, if it is a case of incompetence, how come that nobody has been held accountable? How come that the IGP is still in office? How come that BT, the SSS Director General, is still in office? How come that the Chief of Army Staff is still in office? This is the tragedy of the Buhari years. That in 8 years, we saw a president that people were killed, no accountability, no punishment. Is Tinubu now towing that same pattern? Because if these attacks take place, over almost 200 Nigerians killed, almost 200, and you do not sack the IG, you do not relieve the service chiefs of their responsibility, you are simply saying you do not care, and the attacks will be repeated. So there has to be some form of accountability. People has to be penalized. And I don't understand what the killing is about.
What do you see?
I think the way it is going, citizens are being pushed, the victims are being pushed to a point where people may begin to resort to self-help. Because, I mean, you listen to what the governor said, basically asking people to defend themselves. I don't understand why we should have a conversation in 2024. I mean, we're about to enter 2024. I don't understand why I should be having a conversation in the 21st century on whether cattle should be allowed to move around freely. Because this conversation, this suggestion that these are headers from Niger, from wherever, from Chad or whatever, that, oh, they need to feed their cattle, they need to be allowed to move their cattle. Why should the life of one Nigerian be killed because of a cattle? It doesn't make sense. It has never made sense to me. So those who say that this is land grabbing cannot be dismissed, because there have been cases, there have been testimonies over time that when these invaders, these terrorists, invade communities, they will displace the indigenous people of those communities, they will now inhabit their lands, and they will even rename those communities. These issues have never been decisively tackled. And when you heard General Danjuma saying that the armed forces is not neutral, you begin to now ask, is this really the case? Because if the armed forces is neutral, we will not be having these attacks. So what I am saying is that we are getting to a point where there is now complete loss of faith in the government. The territorial integrity of the Nigerian state has been challenged. And people keep saying, oh, Nigeria is indivisible, Nigeria is indissoluble, Nigeria cannot be divided. But in reality, in practical terms, we are seeing the territory of our country being conquered by terrorists. We are hearing excuses that, oh, because of the terrain, that, oh, these areas cannot be policed, these areas, the security agencies cannot easily access it. So the government has basically ceded parts of our territory, of our country, to terrorists. That is what has happened. Because what other explanation do you have for it? And how come that these attackers will invade these communities? At the end of the day, they return to where they came from. Nobody stops them. And were there no checkpoints? How were they able to live? Where did they return to? And to compound the matter, we even see reports where before attack take place, these terrorists will even be so emboldened to send notice, pre-attack notice that we are coming. This attack that just happened on the eve of Christmas, there was a notice that they were going to come, I think, on the 29th. And truly they went, even though they said people were not killed. So what does this tell you? It tells you that these people, these terrorists, have some level of protection of the state. If the state is not protecting them, or if the state is not so weak to the point of bringing them to justice, they will not continue. But if truly these are foreigners, what does that speak about us as a country? That you have foreigners invade our country, kill Nigerians, and return to where they came from. Nobody stops them. And then you have people being buried, given mass burial, and the president has not even gone to condole with them. I'm seeing pictures of him with his family smiling. I don't have anything against his family celebrating, but why make a public show of it? At a time that almost 200 of your citizens are being buried. The president of a country has not gone to visit the victims. It's only the vice president who went. I'm not even sure if he interacted with the victim directly. But people are tired of condolences. People are tired of excuses. Nigerians want to see solution. President Tinubu must decide today that this attack must not happen again. No. And if it happens again, this is what the consequence will be. In terms of resignation, in terms of firing people. And if Tinubu comes to the conclusion that Nigerians, I promise you renewed hope, but unfortunately I don't have any hope to give you. I cannot safeguard your life. The honorable thing is to resign. You cannot have citizens being slaughtered, and there is no consequence.